a quick little update on what we're doing on the car. It's completely pulled apart right now, so forgive the mess and forgive the unfinishedness of everything, but I'll show you what we can right now. So first thing you'll see is we've got our new OMP gear in here. We've got our OMP steering wheel with our flappy paddle set up here, and we've got a new steering column that's a collapsible steering column. And then right behind that, we've got our new OMP seat, which we've got mounted loosely for right now, but it's 6 inches further back than what we were previously, and we're about 1.5 inches lower, just to try to get a little bit more safety. And there's a reason for why we moved the seat so far back, but I'll show you that in a minute. Cool stuff from AEM. So we got our 7-inch high bright digital dash, which is awesome compared to our stock unit. So it's lighter. I mean, there's the retro factor of the E30, which is kind of cool, but I think this is going to be a lot better for us for sure. And then we've also got this CAN module sensor, so we get 22 more channels of things that we can log and check for our data. So that's going to help big time. Behind all of this stuff, you'll see that we've got a new tunnel that we put in. We had to rip out the old tunnel mainly because we needed to have room for our new transmission, and that's basically what kicked all of this modification off. I basically measured everything and realized that I was going to have to cut the tunnel out anyways, so I said while I was going to do that, I wanted to push the engine back as far as I could. Our goal was about 10 inches, and we ended up getting about 9 inches. So if we come over here, I'll show you a little bit more. All right, so getting back to what we were talking about with the tunnel and why we moved the seat back, the main thing we did is we moved the engine back from the stock location about 9 inches rearward. We couldn't quite get the full 10 inches, mostly because of where the seat, where we needed room for the end of the transmission and where the seat actually came, the front part of it. So we got pretty close. 9 inches is still huge. That puts the front of the engine from about here to about here. So we have the majority of the weight is behind the front axles, which is huge considering the DCT weighs about 100 pounds more than our ZF transmission. The next thing is I wanted to make sure that we got enough room on the tunnel and the sides of the tunnel that it was easy to get the transmission in. So it's a little bit larger than it needed to be, but I wanted to make sure there was room for cooling lines, and when we got the length of the engine and considering it's even further back, I wanted to create it as open as possible, but also as strong as possible. So it's all bridged up to the dash bar that was already in the car. We added a few bars, including one diagonal bar on the passenger side, just to help stiffen that whole area up, make it a little bit safer. Added a couple more foot bars, basically to help strengthen the entire area where the engine mounts are located. Just because of all the cutting, I didn't really want anything to shift, and I wanted to keep as stiff as possible and add some safety while we were at it. We also added on the passenger side a removable, or it's partially removable firewall, so we can remove the bottom and the top half of the firewall, so we can get to, the exhaust manifold or the turbo downpipe, any of the stuff back there that's hard to get to otherwise. So another thing we've done is we've gone with 18-inch Yokohama Slicks, and we have these guys mounted on World TA5R wheels right now. And the fronts we have about 10 inches wide, so these are 250, 650, 18s. And the rears we have mounted on 11-inch World TA5R wheels, and those slicks in the rear are 300, so they're about 12 inches wide. So seems like it's a really good setup. Can't wait to try these Yokos out. Can't wait to see what a couple more inches of rubber in the rear is going to do for us. We've had to modify, some of the things in here to get them to fit. So it was already kind of a struggle to get 17s to fit. I can show you a couple things we've done here. So maybe I could get a light here. So one of the major things we had to do is we had to raise the arch here, and I wanted to try to keep as much of this factory crash protection in. So basically just added one giant piece of 1/8 inch steel here. A little bit tricky to do, a lot of cutting, a lot of grinding, but I think it came out pretty well. And also back here, this is where we had some, you could tell we had crash damage, and we kind of had poorly repaired it in a rush on peak week. I think it was in 2013. And our tires with our full lock were kind of running into this. So I took that opportunity to kind of take it back, use one solid piece, and kind of form it as best as possible, make it a nice, stronger structure, and also give us a little bit more clearance for when the tire is full lock in this position. So one of the big challenges we had with getting all of our tunnel mock-up and actual mounts made was we were waiting on our flywheel adapter and the actual flywheel from Adamat. It took quite a bit longer than expected to actually get, so it put us a little bit behind, but we got it in late March, and finally we was able to make like a proper transmission bracket. So these are the DCTs. This is our kind of backup and the one I'm using to mock, and this is the one that we're getting ready to put in the race car. So it's getting wired right now. Got a couple goodies for it, but it's mostly stock clutches. Basically the only other things we're doing is fresh filters from Winslow BMW, and we've got a few parts from the Seems Legit Garage, like the Big Mama oil pan they call it, and our drive shaft adapter, which is actually on this transmission right here. So this takes from the stock BMW, and on this side we've got the 1350 U-joint bolt pattern, so we can go with cheaper drive shafts or a little bit burlier. So another fun thing I wanted to show is our custom manifold that we had to make in order to push the engine back. We had to put the turbo in a different location, so this took a few days of fabrication. It's the first manifold that I've ever made. I did cheat a little bit. I had somebody weld it for me, but did all the fab work beyond that, and tacked it all together. So I think it came out really spectacular. So everything's V-band, which is pretty cool. So got a large V-band single outlet for our wastegate, and then our turbo will mount right on top. And speaking of the turbo, so another fun toy we've got is I finally went with the new turbo. I've been running a Garrett GT 3582 for like 10 years now. I'm kind of getting worried that it might be past time, so went with a very similar setup, mostly just because we can now use that older GT35 as a backup. But this one we went with the Garrett GTX 3582R, the Gen 2 version. And we've got a stainless housing, exhaust housing, so it should be a lot better. I can kind of show you roughly where it goes. So I had to take a little bit out of this support here, but it's kind of somewhere in this orientation where it sits, so should be pretty cool to have the turbo that far back. Another 20 pounds behind the axle is great. So all right, we just got our new motion control suspension dampers in. These guys are 3-way adjustable. Should be night and day difference compared to what we have been running. We've been running Coney yellows, and for the last 5 or 6 years at least, the bumps on Pikes Peak have just been getting worse and worse and worse. So we're trying to do whatever we can to, make sure those bumps don't throw the car around too much, and see if we can get as good a contact patch as we can, and see if this will help us improve our time. So super grateful for MCS to help us out, and can't wait to get these things on the car. All right, that's pretty much what we've got going on in a nutshell. There's still a whole lot of work left to be done, and we've got about a month to get the majority of that work done, so I'm going to get back at it.